along with Scott. Now we have Sarah Griesbach, demonstrator, organizer that was involved in the protests that a lot of people are probably familiar with at the Symphony, but you've been involved from the beginning, if you will, and met a lot of the folks that were involved with that in Ferguson.
People have suggested that our protest was different from others, and in many ways it was different, right? Especially the reception and the context, but all of us were the same people who've been involved from the beginning, and that's how we met, was protesting from the beginning.
And I met this gentleman in Ferguson as well. You're a freelance videographer that's really picked up a lot of steam professionally, I guess you could say. Bradley Rayford, who shot a lot of pictures and video. You've been there also from the very beginning in Ferguson. So let's talk about this. Is this a new, I feel like I'm going to sound like the old stuffy guy here, but is this a new age in media? Is a new age even in social media? Has social media changed in the last 2 months in our region, perhaps, or across the country?
Well, it's certainly social media changes the protest. So when I protested with many people 2 weeks ago in Busch Stadium, we had very little press, and 2 days ago there was much more press because there was social media that capitalized on the occurrences that took place. So people were able to find out right away that things that had not been recorded when I was there. When I was in Busch Stadium 2 weeks ago, I held up a sign that said, "Racism lives here," with Elizabeth Vega, someone else who had held up that same sign with me at Powell Hall. And the Cardinals fans screamed, "Pants up, don't loot," at us, and then screamed, lock 'em up, and applauded when we were taken away in handcuffs. And that experience we didn't have on tape, but let us know, we've been developing, all of us have, a sense of how you can get the message out. And these negative experiences change when they're brought out into the world in a different context. So our experience at the Symphony was very different from that. The reception was very different from that. But the really amazing thing is how the world has received the video that Rachel from the St. Louis American took. That's
Rebecca shot.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. Thank you. That really has completely molded the way that people perceive what could have been just a one-time experience that only the participants would remember. And then that takes off. It becomes memes that are already out there, and the message keeps shifting.
Tell us about the Symphony, because I mean, you did not send out like a traditional press release, or you did not. I'm guessing you did not alert like traditional organizations that we're going to be doing this. You might want to be there, but it got a lot of traction, if you will, a lot of publicity. Can you kind of walk us through it? I think we're going to see
we
some
only
of that video.
trusted the St. Louis American to have a presence there, and we were really nervous that it would not happen. And none of us, like in every protesting experience, these aren't fun. We're doing this because we believe in what we're doing, and we believe in the message, and we think St. Louis, we're hoping that we can save St. Louis. So all of us are there with our hearts in our hands. And that's how we felt that night. It was a bit of a miracle that it came off as well as it did.
Is there a broad sense that echoes what she just said about she only trusts the St. Louis American? Does that play into this conversation about media?
The 5, 4, 2 are pretty much blacklisted from covering inside the actual protest. They have to stay on the outsides of the protesters because protesters feel that the media as a whole have not got the story right. Mm-hmm. That's a double-edged story because you can't report everything that happens from your perspective. So I'm right here. I don't have the same perspective you have over there. And so I think that right there kind of it's a good thing and a bad thing. But the American, people feel that such as this is the African American paper. Historically, they feel they can more connect with it a lot better than a lot of the other media
St. Louis
outlets.
Public Radio also has done an incredible job doing in-depth research, but you know, a lot of the press has clearly had the perspective of trying to shut things down, restrain the protests. They call the protesters rioters. They call it the violence. They call it the unrest. Well, we're not that. We're people who are begging for justice. I mean, we are not the danger. The danger has been the people who are wearing gas masks and holding guns. None of us have guns. And those violent things that have occurred, those are really not related to any of the protesters. And all of us, anyone who's protested can tell you that.
I have to, you know, in all full transparency, I don't know, you know that my day job is with Channel 5, and I haven't gotten any resistance about covering, as you say, inside the protest. I know, maybe that's new, I'm not sure, no one's pushed me out, and I certainly, whether you believe me or not, I can tell you that no one's, we did an hour-long, uninterrupted, commercial-free show on Channel 5.
I would also say Channel 5, it's way better than say Channel 14.
Well, I'm not here to say that. I'm just saying there's definitely, a lot of times people have a conspiracy theory or just a belief or a general feeling that there's some sort of effort to shut things down, and I can tell you there's not from my experience.
That I believe you, but from that perspective, to jump on what you said about the St. Louis American, people trusting it, recent studies have shown that 75% of African Americans don't trust the mainstream media to report accurately or fairly about their community. 66% of Hispanics feel that way about the mainstream media. And whether that's the reality, that's the perception. And when you have a perception like that, people are going to turn to sources like the videos you're taking, like the videos you've had taken, and they're going to rely on those. They're going to spread those. They're going to use social media.
Is it any different
from
public media? I'm just curious.
Well, St. Louis Public Radio has been able to pretty much stay there too, being on the inside of it, if you put it that way, able to get, because they don't have video. So there's only doing audio, so I think a lot of people feel safe. They can speak their mind without having people worrying about who is saying this because they only hear their voice.
Well, and I mean, it's really about results. It's just in the case of our symphony, looking at the reporting on that was done locally, which sources actually contacted us. 5 did, and 5 did a great job. 4 didn't, and I think 4 did a hatchet job. And in terms of print too, you know, the Post-Dispatch reported that we had 12 people present and really tried to make this something that was, at least in its initial iteration, was not particularly effective, and trying to, I think, again, trivialize yet another attempt to try to bring change in St. Louis, where St. Louis Public Radio has really tried to take this apart. St. Louis, the American, again, also has tried to do an in-depth, looking at the way that the music fits, looking at the way that the symphony, the musicians responded, taking this and this, that's just a little nothing compared to this whole scene of what's going on in Ferguson.
And not to get too into the weeds here, but what about a show? Does an opportunity like this lend any credibility to the mainstream media, if you want to call public television that? And the reason I ask is, I'll say.
So the question is, do we get to anything? Do we get to to what's real, or are we just filling time here?
Well, let's get to what is
right.
Real. Then forget that question and tell me what's real.
I mean, what is real is that St. Louis is suffering from a serious racial divide, and that and in white St. Louis, it is impolite to talk about it. We're not allowed to speak about race. I have children who go to primarily white schools, and then I work with kids who live in primarily black communities, working with a group of children in North St. Louis and asking those kids when they were putting on their gardening gloves, I said, let's see your gardening gloves, let's make sure they're on correctly, hands up. They all said, don't shoot. None of them live in Ferguson, they live in St. Louis City, and this was immediately after the protesting began, and I thought, my kids don't live in this reality, and it's a secret in the parent community that we're keeping from our children, and that's perpetuating a dangerous problem for these black children who, as they grow older, will be perceived as dangerous within just as entities. You know, my 10-year-old boy is lanky and tall, and if he were black, he's not, and he ran around from outside the corner of our house and ran to the front yard, and a passerby saw him, they might perceive him as dangerous. in his basketball uniform. They might think that he was a danger because we've seen that happen.
So what can since we're talking about the media, so what can the media do so that people believe this, not believe, but so that this voice is heard, or that there is a credibility on this very topic that we're discussing?
I think it's a hard thing to do, first of all, because you always have those certain people that you can't change their mind about anything. They're going to feel the media is going to do what the media does, is to exploit. That's going to be their mindset no matter what. But what can be done is to work really hard to try to get stories that people, they're actually in the thick of it, tell the story from it. The police tell a lot of stuff that are wrong or false on purpose. We all know this. They say stuff they're false on purpose to the media because they know they're going to report it.
Do a lot of people believe what you just said, that you talk to? The people you cover, the people you talk to?
There have been a lot of people that
A lot of people of color do.
Yeah, a lot of people
A lot
of
of
color.
white people don't. And you can see that on social media
Yeah.
and in the comments and in what people say.
Because
Absolutely.
I would tweet something like an officer involved shooting, or they'll have a response to say, "Do you mean a guy got shot?" Like stuff like that. People don't really want to follow that. So I believe that what I try to do with my reporting is to just do the video and you see it as it is. I don't do any kind of commentary over you. You see how I shot it, which is not edited in any way. It just chronologically.
Do you make it clear that you're not cutting or editing?
Right, it's all in order as it happened. There's no way for me to manipulate it. So I show like a cop doing this or a protest doing this first. It's all as
And then-